I told you it was coming. I said they'd go for central bank digital currencies, a cashless society, and the arguments for it are clear. It'll be quick, easy, cheap to transact. There'll be no problems at all, no loose change lying around. There'll be lots and lots of arguments for it. Well, this week, the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Bank of England have said by 2030, Britcoin, a central bank digital currency, will be up and running. It will, to begin with, be limited in scope, but with huge ambitions for the years to come. I think this could pose some real threats. It actually gives government pretty much total control over our lives because they can just press a button and close our bank accounts. No, they wouldn't do that now, would they? Well, think about it. Those Canadian truckers, they were legally and lawfully going about their business driving trucks, but legislation came in demanding that unless they'd been double vaxxed, they couldn't continue in their cabins doing long-distance lorry driving. And they protested. And in the end, their bank accounts were closed down by the Canadian government. Well, with the central bank digital currency, anyone that decides to stand up and fight against the government could be pressed down simply with the push of a button. That is my concern. What is it all going to mean? Well, joining me down the line is Layah Heilpern, and she's a podcaster, but also the author of Undressing Bitcoin, not Britcoin, Bitcoin. Layah, thank you and welcome for joining me this evening. Just explain central bank digital currencies. This isn't just the Bank of England considering this, is it?
Exactly. Currently, more than 90% of central banks globally are all working on bringing out a central bank digital currency. And I think it's really important to elaborate on what exactly that is. A central bank digital currency is basically what we have now. So it's fiat currency, but it's going to be entirely digital, which means absolutely in the control of the government and the central bank. So as you mentioned, government, since they own it, they're able to program it in a way that we've never seen before. So as you said, if for whatever reason you don't do as you're told and you don't take 3 vaccines, 4 vaccines, or whatever it is, the money can just be programmed to be used against you. The perfect example is right now we're living during this supposed climate crisis where they want to implement a carbon allowance. So how do you do that? Well, it's very simple. You just program the money in a way that you cannot do with the current cash that we have. You program the money. So if, for example, you have a barbecue and you want to buy some steaks, some burgers, some sausages, whatever it is, you could actually reach your carbon allowance. And when you go to fill up your car, it could get declined because you reach your carbon allowance. So it's a really efficient way for governments to implement their political and woke agendas through the money.
Well, all of this, of course, Layah, all of this will be denied at every stage by government. But when you look at the incredible overreach of government over the course of the last few years, nothing is impossible. Now, I know that you are a great advocate for Bitcoin, perhaps for other cryptocurrencies too. And it's, this program is not here to give investment advice. But I'm thinking to myself, if we move towards full central bank digital currencies, and I don't want government to control potentially every aspect of my life, presumably this could be the biggest thing that's ever happened to Bitcoin and other crypto coins.
Absolutely. During the time of the truckers, we used to say that Justin Trudeau was the best advocate for Bitcoin, because with Bitcoin, when you hold it correctly in a non-custodial wallet, which means outside of any CEO or centralized control, nobody can freeze it. Nobody can touch your funds as long as it's in a non-custodial wallet. And that's the most important thing. And, you don't have to buy Bitcoin for an investment purposes. It's about being a sovereign individual, because money is the energy which fuels your life. So if you don't have control of your money, you don't have control over anything. And you, in my opinion, really just become a slave, because if the government can make your money expire, if the government can freeze it in the name of terrorism or national security, then what freedom do you have in society as an individual? You have none. And that's why, of course, I'm a huge advocate for Bitcoin, because nobody can touch it. There's no CEO, there's no centralized authority, fully decentralized, in the control of just you.
But number one, we've got to be honest, it is extremely volatile in terms of price. And number two, we have seen a very large number of bankruptcies in what is a pretty unregulated market. So there are risks here, aren't there?
So I'll start with the price. Firstly, it is volatile. Everything is volatile. But if you zoom out and look at Bitcoin over the last decade, you can see that it is moving on an upward trajectory. Again, this isn't investment advice, but long term, if you do zoom out, it does seem to be some form of store of value. Secondly, with regards to bankruptcies, those are centralized exchanges. And I would never advocate leaving your money on a centralized exchange. That's really the same as leaving it in a bank with no insurance and no regulation. So don't do that.
Nope. Okay. Well, Layah, thank you once again for joining me on this programme. Thank you very much indeed. And folks, as I say, I'm not giving investment advice, but I can see it. If central bank digital currencies come, fully within the next decade, a lot of people will go for other options.